Montrezl Harrell, he's a Kenneth Faried type.
Yeah.
They're like, well, hair-wise, yes. Any other way, no. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DNVR show.
Let's go.
It's all right. So today, Tuesday, off day. Nuggets been off for a couple days, but I'm telling you, fellas, I am pumped for today's show.
Oh, that's good.
As I was doing my own research and preparation for it, I started coming across some stuff where I was like, man, this will be fun to talk about. I kind of like this. Some comps. I came up with some comps for Peyton Watson, Christian Braun, and Julian Strawther that we're going to discuss. Now, I don't love it just because I think these comps are great, like, hey, this or that. I like the guys we're going to compare them to and say, are they on this trajectory? That's what I think is going to make for a really good discussion. Now that we've gotten a bigger sample size out of Strawther and Peyton Watson, I think we can talk about those guys in particular. Christian Braun even a little bit, like, you know, I don't think we've learned too much new about him, but still, a lot of meat on the bone. You gentlemen were at practice today. We have a latest report on Jamal Murray. And then, of course, the in-season tournament happened last night. Absolute banger. I've been buzzing since last night. That tournament, like watching good basketball picks you up.
Yeah, league's in a tough spot, though. You know what I mean? They can't have the Pacers in the finals.
They can't have it.
What would that do?
It's not going to be a success unless it's Lakers-Knicks.
Yeah.
So true. Then it would be a huge success.
Yeah, then it's a hit.
Then it's a hit.
If not, got to go back to the drawing board.
You have the in-season tournament. It better reflect, you know, the other tournament. It better reflect the league as it already is.
Right.
Just major market.
You know,
major
the
market.
Knicks are such a central pillar of the NBA in 2023 that
Bing bong, baby.
every competition has to. It's just better if they're featured.
Like it's better when RJ Barrett is on our television screens.
Yeah.
It's just better. I'll tell you this because we're joking about it. I am starting to get of the opinion where I hope the NBA becomes less popular. I would not mind if it was the MLS. And it's like, it's for
we
me.
wouldn't
I don't
be doing
care if
this
it's
show
for
right
anyone
now
else.
if that was the case. So
That's
that
true.
wouldn't be great.
That part
but
would suck a little bit, but I'm just done with this. Like,
probably
we
have
need
to
the
find a
ratings.
new career.
We need the ratings to be so good. We need it. I'm like, I don't know. The league's fine. I don't care. We're going to debate all these things, though, today on the show. I got Brennan Vogt in the house.
You never know what kind of work day it's going to be. Like, where's your energy at? And then more importantly, where's Adam's energy at? And when he tells you, when the first thing you hear is, I'm really excited about today's show. You're like, I guess I better turn it up 20%.
Better turn it up, baby.
I better find the dial inside and just crank it.
Yeah. Chug that water over here. Man with the wind in his hair. Harrison Wind.
To that point, I don't think we're going to go short today. I think we're going to have a nice, full 60-minute, 4-segment show.
I think we might have a long show today. There's definitely a chance. They're making a joke that I used to say we might go short today, guys. We always would go long.
We've never I don't
Never
know in
once.
this history of this show ever gone short.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever have. All right, well, because of that, why don't we get right into it? And let's start first with some notes from practice today, Wind. What happened?
The first note I've got on my list of practice notes is Nikola Jokic got a haircut.
Oh, you know what that means?
Look out, Clippers!
That means people are going to pretend Yoke's going to have a different game than usual.
I'm over it. I'm over it, guys. That's a pre-title little cultural egg for us.
I think social media's over it a little bit too because I posted it. Didn't get quite the engagement it usually does.
You know what? Turns out people get haircuts.
People just get haircuts
Every X amount of
sometimes.
months.
He is actually the only player we've ever talked about
It's so true.
regarding their haircut.
No, that's not true, actually. Remember Aaron Gordon for a while? We were tracking Fro versus corner.
Yeah, but I mean just like actual cut.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
not
yeah.
changing hairstyle.
Right. Yeah,
because
an
changing
actual cut.
hairstyle, yes, a very prevalent topic on this show. Haircuts, we've never talked about anybody in the league getting a haircut other than Jokic.
Did you guys, somehow this happened this last week, and I didn't even notice this, but last night, Tyrese Halliburton joined Nikola Jokic as one of 9 or 8 players or 9 players to ever get, I can't even remember what the mark was. It was like weird kind of
It
mile
was
markers.
30, was it?
15,
26, 10, and 13
With zero turnovers, yeah.
turnovers.
And Jokic did it twice in the last
So it's
week.
happened, I think, 8 times now in
Yeah.
the history of the NBA. 3 were this week.
Yeah.
2 from Jokic. What? Is that not the weirdest stat you've
That
ever?
is bizarre.
The league been tracking turnovers for like 40 years now, 45 years.
I also couldn't believe They were saying that's Tyrese Halliburton's first career triple-double.
And the first time he's played on TNT.
I think we just did these in the order of most shocking, to be
Yes,
honest.
yeah,
with you.
1,
First
2,
triple double, and then the fact that he's never been on TNT. He's easily a top.
If he played on the Knicks, he might be have been on there 100 times already.
Honestly, I'm not even kidding. This was like, for me, line 1A in the appeal of the tournament. Tyrese Halliburton is a legitimate stud. He's fun to watch, and a lot of people might not, because he's on the Pacers, and apparently he's never been on TNT before.
Put a pin in it. I want to get back to that because
sorry.
there's some interesting Pacer stuff.
Michael Malone says his biggest concern with the team is their defense right now. They're 4-1 in their last 5 games, but 20 something defensively, and our 3-point defense has been bad as well.
We should go as a company to Build-A-Bear and make a Michael Malone doll. And you pull it, and it has like 5 things.
Yeah.
Like, I'm concerned about the defense.
Shootout at the OK Corral.
Yeah. Like, he just says 5 or 6 things.
We should do that and just give it to him at the end of the year.
It'd be like, I would have guessed he's concerned about the defense. We're going to do a presser in about a month. He's going to be like, I'm concerned about our defense.
Yeah. I mean, every presser last year, that was his concern.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray update. He went through parts of practice today. Nuggets didn't do anything live. They didn't do any like 5-on-5 contact or anything. But the message is that he could play tomorrow against the Clippers. I don't know if he'll play, but it's on the table. He will travel. They'll see. I bet he's listed as questionable.
So I watched the presser. My takeaway after watching it is I thought he was a lock to play tomorrow, and now I don't think he's a lock.
Maybe because after Malone said that, he immediately started praising Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
Well, I mean...
And
Reggie's also been good.
Yeah. He just was talking about, Reggie's efficiency in the pick and roll with Nikola and DeAndre Jordan, his efficiency shooting the ball. And I kind of think that with how well Reggie Jackson's playing, I think that makes the Nuggets less there's less pressure on like Jamal Murray to come back.
That's how I interpreted that as well.
Yeah.
He could play. We're not going to rush it. And if he doesn't, it's not as a disaster because look at how well Reggie's playing. I like when Malone tells us, you guys should look at his numbers. You're like, yeah, man, we have.
It's kind of our job.
Yeah.
And I know they're
Yeah,
pretty
he is
good.
playing well.
Yeah.
I also like nobody's noticed Reggie's play. Like, has he? I gotta look at the
Bro,
numbers.
we named one of the greatest regular season wins after him.
Malone's like, I thought he
Called the bailout.
really stood out in that Clippers game. Like, yeah, I caught that.
Next, he's gonna
Did
be
you
like,
guys watch that Clippers game?
I don't know if anybody's paying attention
That
to what
was
Nikola
a
Jokic is
great
doing right
game.
now, but it's been very
I
good.
like that one too.
All right, what else?
Michael Malone was talking about Peyton Watson, and I asked him about what did it show him about P-Watt, about how he bounced back after, like Malone challenged him after that Rockets game. He challenged the bench after the Rockets game, and he said Peyton wants to be great. He wants to be coached hard. He wants to be held accountable. Young players are going to have ups and downs, and his message to Peyton is, I'm never going to look at your percentages. It's just about the energy and the effort you're giving every single game. Are you running in transition? Are you hustling? Are you getting on the glass? And then he talked about going from guarding Kevin Durant to De'Aaron Fox, 2 totally different players. It shows you his versatility.
Love it.
And then finally, Michael Malone was talking about Christian Braun, and he says he apologized to Christian Braun. He said to Christian Braun, look, you're not a backup point guard, but we're playing you there right now. And, you're not a backup one, but you're doing a hell of a job. Christian Braun hasn't complained. He's doing a good job. He spent a lot of time this summer working on his handle, Malone said, and being a secondary ball handler. And Malone even said, look, we're a ball movement team. Sometimes we don't need a true traditional point guard on the floor, but he's happy with the job Christian's doing.
So I made this. By the way, everybody, we've been doing these roundtables every week for diehards only. If you're not a diehard, you're missing out on DNVR content that's been really good every week, sometimes twice a week. And one of the things in there was about, a question about who is Jamal Murray's return, which now is funny because maybe it's not actually happening, but who would it benefit the most? I don't want to give away my answers because I want people to go and read those, but I did have a note in there about Christian Braun has playing point. He is not a point guard, but I think it's actually great for him to be forced to play this just as an experiment. It's making him, he is a secondary creator. Right now, he's not even that. But for him, this is like double duty. When you're running on ball, you're getting like twice or 3 times the reps of handling the ball, which I think will serve him. So I actually love that this has been an experiment, even if the end goal is not to get Christian up to snuff to be a point guard. It's just extra ball handling duties.
What's funny about it, to me is Bruce Brown was kind of a point guard by default, and
Yeah.
that he could handle the ball, and not a lot of guys on that roster could. But I don't think any of us were really super bullish on his point guard abilities.
No.
It was just that he could bust it out, which helped the versatility in terms of what lineups you could put him in. Maybe not a bad goal for Christian Brown. Like, yeah, you're never going to be a true backup point guard, but if you are supposed to, fill Bruce Brown's shoes, a little bit of that can't hurt. And I actually think he's gotten better at it. We've seen little blips of improvement.
No
He's
question
definitely
about
gotten
there's been improvement there. No question.
We spoke with Julian Strawther as well at practice today. He was talking about how DeAndre Jordan has been such a great vet for him. He sits on the bench next to DeAndre Jordan a lot during games.
It's like a PhD in basketball.
Yeah, some people have said that. He says that DJ supports you, but also tells you what you're doing wrong. And some of the things that DeAndre Jordan tells him go right over Julian Strawther's head. He said, I didn't even notice some of the things he's telling me. So it's been a really good experience for him, soaking up that knowledge. Julian Strawther says Peyton Watson is fearless on defense. He says it's a confidence. It's about his confidence and how he carries himself that makes him such a good defender. He says that when Peyton Watson subs into games, he immediately just goes and guards the best opposing offensive player without even Michael Malone having to tell him to. So that's kind of his mindset on defense. Julian Strawther says that he's never taken a sophomore shuffle because, quote, that's a ticket to the bench for me.
I love the idea of Julian taking a sophomore shuffle. 100% Malone's pulling his ass out of the game. Can you
sit on the
imagine
bench,
if
bro.
Julian
A
busted
third
out?
quarter one, too.
He's just like, you know what? Let's try it. Malone's like, what?
Yeah.
Time out immediately.
Rage timeout. But he does say that he sees Jokic practice them all the time. He said the first time he took one, Jokic took one, he thought he was trolling. Strawther thought he was trolling, but then, he watched it go in.
Yeah. But also, Jokic's trolling. Jokic's trolling. I'm just saying, he's like, what if I shot it on the right leg? This will piss people off.
Yeah.
That's the most maddening shot to get schooled on. Honestly, don't you feel?
Yeah, because it creates the least separation. You know what I mean? And he's like, this is all I need. And it kind of looks dumb as hell. And then you're like, but it's going in.
I mean, there is you get a fall away jumper. It's beautiful in your eye. You tip your hat to the guy. He hits that thing on you, and you're like, you son of a, what are you doing to
What
me?
did Draymond call it? That right-footed joint?
Yeah, that right.
Julian Strawther called it that little fade joint off the wrong leg. That's what he called it today.
Yeah.
Katie asked him, do you know what the sophomore shuffle? He goes, that little fade joint off the wrong leg? Yeah. And then we spoke to KCP as well. His message to Peyton Watson has just been, just focus on defense. Don't even worry about offense. Be solid. Don't gamble. Play within the game. Plan. Play hard. You can control your effort, so give it everything you got. And he said he thinks Peyton Watson can make second team all defense. Second team all defense.
This year?
Yeah, this year.
I mean, he's got to play more minutes. He's on pace for 1,000 minutes, which is really low. I don't think that's possible, but we'll see. He's talented enough, man. We're going to talk a lot of Peyton Watson today.
Yeah. KCP was also asked about getting more foul calls. Nuggets are near the bottom of the league in free throw attempts. I think maybe close to last. Last in free throw percentage as well. And he said, look, maybe we need to look, to just draw contact instead of just trying to make the shot all the time. When we do get in there, we got to knock them down, though. We got to hit our free throws. And he also said, the way we move the ball, the way we play for each other might limit us getting into the paint and getting fouls. We produce a lot of wide open jump shots. That's part of our offense. That's part of Jokic ball. We just get a lot of wide open jumpers. So we're not attacking the paint as much as most teams are. And
right.
Yeah, the Nuggets are last in drives per game. They've been last in drives per game a couple times in the Jokic era.
Yeah. It's true. That's my takeaway, too. Me and KCP of the same mind.
Yeah.
Reggie and DeAndre came over to interrupt for a second. I think they really do just call KCP first team now. 100% of the time they refer to him as first team. Strong messaging, strong branding.
Hey,
we
it is
should-
strong
we
branding.
should-
We got to adopt it.
Yeah, we should start calling Peyton Watson second team.
Yeah. Nice.
Second team.
Those are good notes from practice other than the Jamal Murray one. If you were to bet right now, does he play tomorrow?
I'll say yes.
No.
I kind of get the sense no, and it's such a bummer, man.
Let's
but-
run the big government DeAndre Jordan pick and roll back against the Clippers. They
I
couldn't
know.
stop it once.
It is true. I mean, I actually have enjoyed watching this version of the Nuggets. I can't be too bummed.
Think about this. Would you rather... How great would it be to beat the Clippers again with Reggie Jackson, DeAndre Jordan?
I mean, it's just fun beating the Clippers every time. I just kind of like every way you get it.
But beating them with Reggie Jackson just makes it
Yeah.
a little sweeter.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's take a quick break. On the other side, I do want to talk about that Pacers game just briefly before we start to get into the upsides of the Nuggets' young players. We'll do that on the other side.
Guys, if you are looking to go to Vegas, maybe you're going just, for a guy's trip, couples trip, for a sporting event, check out Circa Resort and Casino. It's Vegas' first ever adult-only casino. They got the world's largest sports book as well. Restaurants all around. Just an awesome experience at Circa. And their sports book is the place to be. There's nowhere else in Vegas there might be nowhere else in the world I would rather watch a sporting event than at Circa Sportsbook. State-of-the-art everything, comfortable chairs, massive TVs. One of the best sports books I've ever been in. No other place I'd rather watch a game. So if you guys are heading to Vegas, book your stay at Circa Resort and Casino. Download their app as well, circasports.com. And if you're looking for some place to stay, use code DNVR20 for 20% off your stay at Circa Resort and Casino. DNVR20, 20% off.
Shady Rays is awesome because sometimes you need sunglasses. And every time you need sunglasses, you probably don't want to pay too much for them. They're easy to lose, they're easy to break. And you shouldn't have to break the bank to look awesome, feel great. And in fact, with Shady Rays, you can do both of those things. You can shop with no risk at all. If you don't like them, you can exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. Shady Rays is giving up their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com. Use code DNVR for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
Are we on the right appropriate reads here?
No.
We got
Nope.
them?
Nope.
Did you guys both do the wrong one?
Yes.
Then we're good. Then
So
we're
we'll
good.
just commit to that. That's
All right,
right.
you guys got it. All right, we're back here at segment 2. Guys, last night's game with the Pacers, actually both games I thought were great. The Pelicans, I'm telling you, we don't have time to talk about them. The Pelicans at their best are so freaking good. They are the most bipolar team in the NBA. They're two different teams, the good version and the bad. But when they're good, I was thinking about this, and we'll get to it here as we start to do comps. David Griffin, Calvin Booth, same vision of what role players should look like. And they have some, they're a couple years ahead in a lot of ways of what Denver's young role players are. They kind of have one of each. We're comping them. There's one player on the Pelicans for each of the guys that we're going to comp to. And there's just so much length, so much wings, so much smart, older rookies, all those things. They have them. And as a result, that team can go into Sacramento, a tough place to win, and not just win, but kind of dominate the whole game. They controlled that whole game. Were you as impressed with me about what the Pelicans others do? Because Zion wasn't good.
Pelicans have great role players, man. They have the role players you want when you're a contending team.
Who are your favorites?
My favorite of their role players is probably Herb Jones.
Yeah.
Love
Honestly,
Herb
you could
Jones.
pick like 3 or 4 different guys could
Yeah.
win this because Trey Murphy is an incredible role player. Dyson Daniels is an
And a
incredible
lot
role
of
player.
overlap in a good way in terms of
Yeah.
there's just an army of 3-and-D guys,
Yeah.
But they're different types of defenders. This is the thing about the Nuggets is you look
Yeah.
at their defenders and you're like, they're designed to guard different types of players.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah,
same over there.
right.
They just have one for everything.
Yeah. I love their role players. I hate their stars, though. I
Yeah.
mean, this is why I'll just never be a believer in the Pelicans. How could you ever trust Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson in a playoff series? How could you, man? They're not killers. They're not dogs. They're not 16-game players.
Zion looks so huge. He looks bigger than
They
normal.
might be 3-game players. They might win the in-season tournament, but those two stars have a lot to prove still before you trust them to carry you to win a playoff series. But I trust their role players, though.
Do any two stars have less of a 2-man game? Like, do they do anything together
Braun
or
and
off of
Tatum?
each other? Yeah.
You asked your own question for that one, didn't you?
No, but the thing about these guys is they're sometimes either one of them looks better with the other one off the floor, and so there's, you know, like they don't really have that dynamic on the floor together or that kind of chemistry, and I think it goes a long way. But the reason why people have been high on this team for years is that the roster itself is great. Yeah. There's just the more you, and like not stuff I can even like report or whatever, it's just the more you talk to people around certain teams, you get some idea of the direction they're headed in. And the Pelicans, I do think there's a little bit of like they're still trying to get those two guys to commit. And without that, it's hard to really trust what they have going on.
I think the Pelicans have upset potential in the playoffs, and they're in the zone where they could play Denver in a first round type thing. So that's just something to look at. To me, of all the
That's a sweep, bro.
Well, I mean, look, Denver should beat everybody, right? And especially these lower ones. Yeah, but would you rather play them or the Houston Rockets? You don't care? You don't think there's a difference? I do. I think there's a real meaningful difference.
Between the Pelicans and the Rockets?
Yeah, like the Rockets
The Pelicans are better.
Yeah, the Pelicans to me are like an elite level role players with bad stars, and that's tough. It's like the Pelicans to me are like the Timberwolves last year. They're tough to play, man. They're just tough. Is Denver going to beat them in 4, 5, or 6? In my opinion, yes. But I'd rather play a team where it's like, oh, that's not going to challenge them at all. So anyway, that's my only point with them. But let's go to the other side, which was the Pacers and the Celtics game. I know Vote was enjoying this one.
Oh, did they play last night?
They had a game last night, and it went exactly to script if you are a Celtics doubter. They looked really good in some stretches, and then the fourth quarter came along, and they completely wilted down. And then if you were watching that game, and you didn't know anything about these teams, and you said, which one of these teams is like been through all the trials and tribulations and is hardened for experience and is tough, you would have been like, oh, clearly the Pacers, because that team faced pressure and just like punched and punched and punched. And the other team started shooting fall-aways, fadeaway jumpers when the game was
moment
tied.
kind of swallowed them up.
And they just looked like you were like, this is your fourth quarter offense? Sidestep three-pointer with a hand in the face? Like, what are you doing, Dawson? I don't want to talk about Boston though as much as it would be fun.
They didn't have Kristaps Porzingis.
I do actually want to talk about the Pacers as well, yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Pacers here. And here's my number one thing. Well, actually, first I want to just say this part. The run they made to close this game was one of those runs that if you're a Pacers fan, you'll probably remember forever. The same way we remember the Wancho game or the 7 or the comeback against Memphis. Like games that don't necessarily mean anything, even though this was in-season tournament. But it means something when you're on the come-up.
Yes.
They out-dueled the Celtics in a big way, and more importantly, they were unafraid of the moment. Tyrese Halliburton is making the leap of a player that we watched Nikola Jokic make years ago. We've watched Jamal Murray make. Halliburton is making that, and last night was one of those ones that was like, oh, he's not only a great player, he can go toe-to-toe with Jason Tatum and out-clutch him and just be ready for the moment. And on top of that, Harrison, I'll throw to you, that crowd was so dead all game. I was actually so unimpressed. There was empty seats. But when they went on that run, that was one of those ones where you were like, oh my God, these people are experiencing something they have not yet. And it took me back to all those Nuggets moments when we were in those same shoes, and it was like, hell yeah, our team is actually next. That was what I took away.
When do you remember when Jamal Murray had 48 points against the Celtics?
Did Kyrie Irving boot the basketball into the stands?
And when Kyrie Irving threw the ball into the stands,
out of respect for the game,
out of respect, and didn't let him have the game ball because he didn't deserve it after going for 50.
Out of respect.
Yeah. What I remember about that game and the context around it was the Celtics were really good.
Yeah.
Celtics were like number one in the East. They had Kyrie Irving. They had Jason Tatum. They had kind of the same team they do now, but with Kyrie Irving. And the Nuggets, they were this young upstart team that hadn't won the playoffs yet. Nobody really knew who they were. But my biggest takeaway from that regular season game when Jamal Murray had 48 on Boston was that he was not afraid or intimidated by the Celtics. He was not afraid or intimidated by this really good team with these established stars that was supposed to come into Denver and win. And the Nuggets all embodied Jamal's spirit in that game. They didn't play scared. Yes. They were the aggressor that whole game. And watching Tyrese Halliburton play last night, I felt like I was watching Jamal Murray in that 48-point game. Like, Tyrese Halliburton wasn't scared. he was the aggressor. You know, he was trying to instigate things. He was getting in people's faces. Like, it's so important when you're a young player coming up like that to just be totally confident in your game and your team, no matter who you're playing and who the opponent is. That's what I saw from Haliburton, man. He had some of that Jamal Murray energy that just, I don't really care who you are. I'm just going to stick this three in your face and we're going to celebrate. And that's what I loved watching last night.
If you're on that team with Haliburton as a teammate, you're that much more confident in your guy, your best guy. And I think in each other too, and Haliburton with them and with the fans who, like, that was a moment and you go, like, hey, do you want to see the Pacers next week? Like, yeah, I do. That was fun as hell. I think they're good. We got a guy. It's exactly what the tournament's for. The Celtics are title contenders, and almost everything they do this season is with that in mind. The Pacers, probably no one involved in that organization, including the fans, started this season thinking a title was realistic. But why do you watch? You know, A, they're a fun team to watch, but B, like, moments like these matter. If you're going to win a title the way Denver did, it doesn't happen overnight. And it's not just the AG trade and it's the KCP trade. People talk about Game 82 still around that organization. That was just a regular season game that they lost. So going through these moments together, figuring out how and why you win or lose in those moments together, and then also having these moments of like, yo, I want to be a Pacer, right? If you're Mathurin or Haliburton, like, you go through those moments together, you want to re-up on that stuff. And I think you can probably just be a Pelican forever and can't wait to leave, right? But things can be different. And this is a really, really good example of what the tournament can do for you. There's a buzz around the Pacers, and everyone knows they're not going to win the title. But does that mean everything they do between now and June is irrelevant? No.
All right. It was awesome. It was an awesome game. But here's my big takeaway. The Pacers were tough. You never know. Teams have to have their mettle tested before you really usually know. And usually that's the playoffs, right? Like, you have to see a team in the playoffs. This is as close as you can get to a playoffs in the regular season, whatever this in-season tournament is. And they didn't blink. It was the first time they had to stare down the barrel of the gun.
Right.
And they did not blink. And not only did they not blink, my favorite moment was the 4-point play that put them up 4. Tyrese Haliburton hits the 3. He gets fouled. The crowd goes nuts. And what I loved about it, fellas, he gets knocked down and didn't stay down. He got up immediately. Like, he didn't want the photos of him on the ground. He wanted to be up, and he walks around. And I just loved it. I know that's a silly little thing to like, but I like this idea of, like, I don't need help up. I don't need this. Like, I'm getting up, and I'm going to walk around the arena as it goes crazy, and I just loved it. But you know who else contributes to their toughness? Bruce Brown. If you look at that team and say, how many guys are comfortable in the moment where it's like, this possession means everything and you need to get it? How many guys are comfortable with it? Tyrese Haliburton, very comfortable. That guy's a winner. That guy is going to be a clutch player, I think, his whole career. Ups and downs, whatever, he's made for it. Bruce Brown is right there with me, or right there with him. And I think guys like, Neesmith, and there are other guys on that team that I look at and I say, okay, those guys have it. But Bruce Brown brings an awful lot of FU energy. When the Celtics made 8-0 runs, Bruce Brown didn't get more conservative or tighter or this or that. He just kept going for dunks and rebounds. Like, he just kept going for the same home run plays he always goes for. And to me, it's one of the things that, as I was watching that Pacers team and impressed with their toughness and with their mettle, I was thinking, do the Nuggets, this was one of my big questions coming in, and we don't know the answer yet, do the Nuggets still have that? Bruce Brown gave them another guy. It elevated their collective toughness. Do they still have that based on the guys that are still here? Or are they going to miss that? And that's something they need to cultivate out of Peyton, Julian, Christian, Reggie. Like, they need to cultivate that throughout the season so that they don't have a deficiency.
That's a good question.
Yeah. I think they do, but they still have to cultivate some of it from some of those other guys. But speaking about Bruce Brown, I mean, we know this. Bruce is a crazy person. Like, yeah. Bruce is kind of a psycho in a good way. Like, he's out on the court in between the lines. The dude is crazy. He's ridiculous, man. His motor never stops running. He's going 100 miles per hour every single time down the floor. He plays his heart out, and that's the only gear he knows. Like, he doesn't know anything else. And so he's a great fit there.
I think Christian can bring a lot of that stuff, but he's younger.
Yeah.
And so I guess there's a little more growing into it that he can do, but I think he can bring a lot of that.
Yeah.
There's
something he doesn't have the personality.
Yeah, that's
Bruce has a temperament of like, you know that scene in The Town, your movie, where he's like, Jeremy Renner's like, whose car are we going to take? That's Bruce. Bruce is always like, hey man, we got to take it into the paint on the ultimate room pretender. He's like,
whose car are we taking?
Yeah, whose car are we taking? That's Bruce's energy. He's actually from Boston too.
Oh, that's
so it kind of actually works really well. Good. Does Denver have that guy?
Not necessarily, but that's kind of what I mean with Christian growing into it. I think it's in his nature, but I kind of would like to see NBA Christian eventually have that.
I think Christian has a lot in it.
Where you turn
a lot
and
of it in him.
Scream an expletive at the bench and it turns into an all-time GIF like that at the NBA level.
Right.
I think he can bring some of that. But they do. I mean, we forget Bruce really started the Lakers stuff. I mean, Malone had plenty to say, but Bruce was doing it on the floor. And then he was basically getting up there and saying, oh, yeah, D'Angelo, like, you think Mike can't guard? Like, what's up, dude?
Yeah.
You know, we're calling you out, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that is, he vocalized it, I think, in a way that the current Nuggets group doesn't.
Yeah. Do you guys ever see the TikTok meme? This was a little while back where a dad gets tell your daughters, like, there's these two girls out there and a dad, and we have to go fight them. I'm going to fight the dad, and you have to fight the daughters, just to see how they would respond to it. Did you guys ever see this?
No. Missed that one.
There was one video, and this young daughter, they're like, how big are they? They're like, you're same size, let's go. The one's like, yeah, we're going to fight. And it's all pumped about it, like excited. It's kind of funny. Anyway, that's Bruce.
Is that Bruce?
That's Bruce.
Bruce
is like, hey, we got to go fight these guys. And he's like, hell yeah. Like, it's a fight? Hell yeah. Excited. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, Peyton Watson. I can't wait to talk P. Watt. I have two comps that are so perfect it's going to blow your mind.
Guys, if you're looking for a great holiday gift, check out Breck Distillery. Breckenridge Bourbon is the official bourbon of the Denver Broncos ticket contest. That's going on right now if you're entered. Also, check out the Broncos Blizzard, a new vodka commemorating the first white alternate Broncos helmets. Breck Distillery, if you don't know, it's the world's highest distillery, founded in 2008. They are most widely known for their blended bourbon, whiskey, a high rye mash, American-style whiskey. Breckenridge Bourbon is one of the most highly awarded craft bourbons in the U.S. It's great stuff. If you're looking for a holiday gift for your dad, for a friend, get them some Breckenridge Distillery bourbon. They won't be upset. Go to BreckenridgeDistillery.com for home delivery of award-winning Breckenridge spirits. BreckenridgeDistillery.com.
Illegal Pete's is the go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beer, and the denizens of Ball Arena. The Avalanche are back. The Nuggets are back. Become the MVP of your watch party with Illegal Pete's. From queso to burrito boxes and party marks, they've got you covered to feel your crew. And if you're out and about, especially for a Nuggets or an Avs game, bring your ticket into Illegal Pete's before or after any ticketed event. Score a free house marg or draft beer with their sound check promo. Illegal Pete's, go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beer. It's been that way for 28 years.
Alrighty, back here, let's get into this Peyton Watson. Now, he has been having a nice run. Michael Malone shouting him out today, talking about what a nice run he's been on. A couple things real quick on him. He has the best defensive rating on the team, or I should say the Nuggets have the best defensive rating when he is on the court. That's a team stat. It's contextual, so we can't put too much weight in it. But that being said, it does tell you something. The Nuggets defend well when he's been on the court. He has the 12th best block rate of anybody in the NBA. The 11 players ahead of him, 7 feet tall.
Nice.
All centers, and then you get Peyton Watson there, and then you get a bunch more centers. He blocks shots at an insane rate. And then you shared this one earlier, Harrison. He leads the NBA in defensive field goal percentage. Means when he contests a shot, teams shoot worse than any other player defending the shot in the entire NBA.
Yeah.
So
That's a nice stat.
it's a pretty good little stat
It's
we
a
have
good
here.
thing to lead the league in.
It's a pretty good one. Now that we've watched him, I've long said, like, Peyton Watson didn't have a lot of film coming out of college. Like, it was hard to scout him even after when he was drafted.
Right.
There wasn't, I mean, the G League stuff, there was a little bit, but him in particular, his mold of player in the G League is especially hard because it's like, is he really going to be scoring all these points and stuff? I don't know. Defensively, he locked down guys that aren't good enough for the NBA. Like, impressive. So this year, to me, the 21-game sample size that we have is by far the telling information on him, and I feel like I finally see what type of player he's going to become. I see the spectrum of types. Do you guys feel the same way?
Yes. Yeah, I think we did. I personally felt like I had no idea what he was outside of the fact that there was length.
I don't think he's Paul George. I'll say that.
Yeah, definitely not that. Honestly, offensively, I still don't even really think
It's still a lot to find out.
I wrote this in the grades recently. Like, some players dip into their bags to find points, and Watson's offensive skill set kind of just lays in the floor like a pile. Like, he's just as likely to trip over it as he is to find what he's looking for.
Vote's such a good writer, you guys.
Defensively, we know what he is, and it's a disruptor through and through. It's a guy who can one-on-one match up with good ISO guys like, Durant and Kawhi because of the length, but it's not there's a range to it. I think even smaller guys who can blow by him, the room for error is just ridiculous with his length.
Yeah,
his instinct for blocking shots is ridiculous. So I now feel like, okay, I've seen him be disruptive and block shots, but I've also seen him just toe-to-toe D up, like on guys like Durant. And I do think what he is a guy who can guard guys like that in the playoffs. And even if that's the only thing you know about him, that's quite the skill.
Let's get into some comparisons here. Wind, I came up with two comps for Peyton Watson now that I've seen him. The first one, and both of these size comps, everything I think is somewhat common. The first one is Matisse Thybulle, who is one of the best defensive players in all of the NBA. Pretty much a zero on offense. He has no offensive game to him pretty much at all. Not a good finisher at the rim, whatever. But defensively, the guy's insane. He's one of the best on-ball defenders. He's one of the best shot-blocking guards or wings, and he is a disruptor. Not only is he a shutdown guy on ball, but off ball, he just rotates. He blocks shots. He protects the rim. He does so many things that if he had any offense to him, he would be like a surefire starter as a 3-and-D player. That's how good the D portion is of his game. The other guy is Herb Jones, who Herb Jones, as everyone knows, maybe the best perimeter defender in the NBA. Arguably, like just an incredibly impactful defensive player that shuts everyone down and is one of the toughest covers. So I felt like rather than worry about the offensive side, which we don't know, let's just talk about impact defenders. And we got one who's a zero on offense, Herb Jones, who is a good offensive player, like below Jaden McDaniels, I would say, but kind of comparable in terms of like he can shoot. He's not like hopeless out there, but he's also not a guy your offense takes a little bit of a dip having him on. You need to make up for it. So let's forget about the offensive side, because how you project Peyton on the offensive end is almost irrelevant to what Denver needs. If they got a Herb Jones out of Peyton Watson, home run. That's a home run for the 30th pick if you got Herb Jones.
I think he's not that far away from being Herb Jones on offense, to be totally honest. I mean, his three-point shot, probably not as great as Herb Jones is right now, but Herb Jones is like a 33% shooter, I think.
Well, let's pull this up. I wanted to compare similar age/experiences here. So with Herb Jones, we're taking, I believe this is his rookie year, but he was 23 years old. He was a fully seasoned player. Peyton Watson, by the way, still 21, still one of the younger players in all of the NBA. And if we look at this is per 100 possessions, because guys like Herb Jones and Matisse Thybulle played like 30 minutes on terrible teams right out the package. So it's a little bit of an advantage. But if we go per 100 possessions, try to normalize it, Peyton Watson is scoring about, you said he's almost Herb Jones offensively, pretty comparable, 0.9 points per 100 possessions. Yeah. You look at the rebounds, identical. You look at the assists, Herb Jones a little bit more, but again, you're playing with Nikola, so you're going to be more of an off-ball player just naturally. Oh, man, with your true shooting, you rounded to the – I can't tell what that is because you rounded down to –
That's just what the stats you sent me had.
So it had either somewhere between 50 and 60% true. Hold on, let me pull them up here. I got them. I have them elsewhere in the data, I believe. We'll keep going on this. Steals – 1 point. So he gets fewer steals than those other two guys, but look at the blocks. Way more blocks, which is kind of a weird profile that you get so many more blocks. I don't know if it'll hold. Rebounding about the same. And then you go to the advanced stats, and I love this. PER in the same ballpark, and then defensive blocks plus minus is what you really want to look at. These are two of the best defenders, and they were both older than Peyton Watson, and their numbers are more or less in line. Now, Matisse Thybulle 3.1, that's insane. But
Tybulle's like such a different type of player, though. He's like such a weird defender. But I think Herb Jones is very similar to how Peyton Watson plays.
Yeah. I just wanted to highlight that Matisse Thybulle is might be the best perimeter defender in the NBA. He just can't play because he's so bad
Right.
on offense. But he might be number one.
Yeah, I don't know how much his style translates to the playoffs, but like P. Watt and Herb Jones, man, that is just your classic modern day versatile disrupting defender. I mean,
Yeah.
we saw it this last weekend. He guarded Kevin Durant and then guarded De'Aaron Fox.
I know.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. He's insane. I think this comp though, showing how close he is to a Herb Jones caliber player, which by the way, Herb Jones starter, major impact player for the Pelicans. And I look at Peyton Watson and go, if you're that caliber of a defender, man, the number, in the argument for number one defender in the NBA, what a weapon.
Yeah.
Because they have KCP right now, who's not the best guard defender in the NBA. He's
Right.
up there. He's very good, but you're not saying he's number one. You have Aaron Gordon, who I think is massively underrated and maybe in the conversation for most versatile, but I don't think number one. Herb Jones is in the conversation for number one. If Peyton Watson can be that caliber,
Right.
to me, I've seen enough from Peyton to think that he is on track, albeit very, very, very early, but he is on track to be a type of guy that really does do what Calvin Booth predicted, which is make the title window for the Nuggets even wider, the margin of error for them even wider, because you're putting out there a guy that basically cancels out one player in a playoff series.
Yeah. And the player Herb Jones is right now, that's who I think Peyton Watson will be next season. I think next
He's
season
1 year away.
he'll be about what Herb Jones is now. But going beyond that, I think he's got way more upside. And
Herb Jones is 25, so
the upside has some to do with that. Peyton Watson's significantly younger. But also, I just think P. Watt's going to have more in his offensive toolbox than Herb Jones ever will. Part of Peyton Watson's projection is what he can do on the other end of the floor. And I think the kind of player Peyton Watson is right now, where 3/4, maybe even more of his impact is on the defensive end. I think that's who he's going to be for the next couple of years. But, when he gets into his mid-20s, when he gets older, I think he's going to start to, develop more of an offensive game than those two guys could even dream to have.
Yeah, and the versatility is really interesting because what Denver kind of has at their 3-4 is, I don't want to say unprecedented in the league, but it's pretty rare, that kind of size. And then you throw Watson in there, and these are all guys who are kind of you can play any two of those guys next to each other, depending on what you need defensively. It might be offensively, it might be a bit rough next to Aaron, but you could close some games with Watson instead of Mike if you feel like you have to, because you can't get a stop on Kevin Durant,
Right.
or let's say 8 out of 10 times Mike has given you what you need as a shooter and a rebounder, but it's one of those matchups like Houston where it just seems like they've really got it figured out in the pick and roll and he's struggling. Then you put Watson in there, and I think having a guy. They've built a competent defensive unit, but having a star defender, an elite guy, not just a default answer, but a great answer to who guards player X, it goes a long way in their versatility, because I think they're the pound for pound the best. Those five guys, they're the best team in the league, but you want to make sure that you match up with everyone in the league. Minnesota is a good example of, is Denver better than Minnesota? Yeah, but part of Minnesota's gambit right now is we think we match up well with you. So making sure a guy like Watson developing just sort of gives you the widest ground you can cover of how well we match up.
Peyton Watson, to me, I think, we talked about this the other day, but I just think he clearly has the higher upside of all of the Denver's young players, because projecting to be the best defender, in the NBA, his upside being high enough to maybe be that big of a defensive impact. I talked about him, comparing him to a guy like Gerald Wallace, one of, I think, 3 players to average 2 steals and 2 blocks in a game. Just enormously impactful. Gerald Wallace, I think, played with more reckless abandon. He had Bruce Brown energy, whereas I think Peyton Watson is more like Herb Jones energy, where he's more controlled, almost more in a way. So, but then on top of that, when you talk about his offense, Harrison, it's more important to think about his offense, to me, more important to think about his offense within the context of Jokic, because I don't know that the Nuggets ever going to need him to carry a second unit or to, whatever. I think it's more about Is he going to be able to be a good cutter? I think he's on his way to being that. Is he going to be a good finisher? He's has some work to do, but there's no reason he shouldn't be a phenomenal finisher at the NBA level. Is he going to be a good shooter? We'll find out, maybe. And is he going to be a good enough ball handler to be able to run secondary ball screens? That's the part to me where that's where his offensive ceiling really unlocks. I think he can always be a good finisher and whatever, but I think he could be a really good ball handler where it's like, hey, man, he's actually now the primary initiator for certain actions because he's such a good passer and finisher when Yoke has all that gravity.
Yeah. And maybe we'll start to see some of that stuff later this season. Maybe we'll start to see it next year. You do get the feeling, though, right now, P. Watt's got a mindset of like, all right, here's what the Nuggets need from me. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to defend and make hustle plays. And maybe as he builds more trust with the coaching staff, if this run that he's on right now continues for the next couple weeks into the next couple months, maybe that's when we can see him start to really maybe try to unleash some of the offensive stuff in his game. But it will come, I think. And yeah, he's always, at least if he's going to be in Denver, he's always going to be in the Jokic system and playing off Nikola Jokic and read and reacting and stuff like that. And his length, his athleticism, it's kind of perfect for that system too.
What about this vote? How confident are you that Peyton, because the Nuggets need him this year. I kind of feel like he's now a major inflection point in the Nuggets this year. Christian and Reggie, to me, are pretty, like, we know what we get from them. Christian can continue to grow, and that would be huge for Denver. But even if he doesn't, all right, you're solid. You're solid. Peyton Watson right now, I'm just not sure if he's a playoff guy because there's just more room to go. We got to figure it out. But the best version of him, the version you could say, like, okay, if he just is the best player that we know he can be at this very stage, if he gets there by this year, I'm like, oh man, Phoenix Suns, Beal, Kevin Durant, Booker, you need a lot of bodies, you need a lot of defenders. He is like maybe the best one to throw on some of those guys. They need him.
Yeah, or just Yoke's off the floor, but Durant's still out there.
Right.
We throw Peyton out there, and it's obvious. You're just hoping to kind of tread water and muck it up during that stint. I think yes, the best version of him is very easily playable in that. You're just going to need to get stops on the best shooters and the best players. And Peyton is an outlier level defender. I think offensively, it's pretty far away for me. Like it's really chaotic and almost like wide eyed and frantic, but that's not unexpected. And I think right now it's not. Malone's even said he's not checking percentages. They're not really coaching him up on that end right now, so much as it's go out there and just put the pedal to the metal and make an impact that way. So I understand the point about like there's some work to do before you trust him in a playoff environment. But defensively, I think everyone that watches the Nuggets every night can see it at this point.
Right now, they just need his offense or his defense. I actually think the offense, his trajectory should mirror Christian Brown's, and I think it was interesting that. Bennett Dorado at the Denver Post had a quote from him in his article today that I thought was very good, where he said, I've been studying Peyton's year last year for myself.
Christian's?
Christian. Peyton has been studying Christian's year because one of the things I keep reminding myself was how slow progress was for Christian. Like, you want everything now, but it's like, nope, these things take time and whatever. And look, Christian had a good year, and he's trying to internalize them for himself. I think that's great because I think one of the turning points on the year for Peyton this year has been Malone telling him after that, I can't remember which game it was, saying that the Houston game, that's what we need from you every night.
Oh no, I thought you were going a different direction with that. I thought you were saying when he said he was going to play different guys off his bench.
Oh no. So it was right after that, right?
It was the game after that,
San Antonio. Yeah. And I just feel like it clicked for him where it was like, oh yeah, don't worry about these other things. Just go out there and make plays defensively. And so for me, I think I don't want him worried about what we're talking about, his timeline on offense. This year's not at all about those things. Right. It's about get that defensive base, and then in the offseason, all right, we're going to work on pick and roll because those other things will become innate, though you won't have to think about them after one season.
It's almost, I remember when we were always talking about Michael Porter Jr. coming into this team and into this rotation, and he's got all these tools, he's got all this stuff in his bag. The Nuggets just need him to do
make shots.
What they need him to do. He just needs to be a shooter. He just needs to be a guy who makes threes. Just needs to be a guy who fits into the system. It's kind of the same with all the role players that come into Denver.
Yeah.
Just do what we need you to do to win a championship. Then in the offseason, try to expand your game and come back to the team, and we'll see what you have.
Yeah.
Just do what we need you to do to win a championship and to fill your role. And it does seem like over the last week, man, P. Watts realized what that is, and it's been beautiful.
And there's always this chance, like when you say, I think the 20th to 80th percentile opportunity for Peyton this year is that he falls somewhere in this, like he's made himself into a good defender, and now Malone can trust him for between 8 and 17 minutes in a playoff series, depending on where he falls on that spectrum. But there is this like top end 20th percentile outcome where he actually takes this leap as a defender to where it's like, nope, he's already one of the best options for throwing at certain types of defenders. And in a playoff series, he's actually at a 22, 23, 24 minutes per game because he cancels out a Devin Booker, something nobody did last year, really in the whole playoffs, but certainly on Denver. And he's the type of guy that's like, oh, you look at the numbers after 2 games against the Suns, and Devin Booker's shooting 35% from the field when guarded by Peyton Watson. And it's like, yeah, that's sustainable.
The Kings game really stands out to me because no one could stop De'Aaron or Malik Monk. And those are 2 guards. I know Monk's a little taller and longer, but in theory should be too small for Watson to be able to hang with them after just coming off that Kevin Durant performance. But he was their best option against either one.
Yep.
And to me, like that's like we remember Gary, and he saved that Utah series D'ing up on Donovan Mitchell, and then he couldn't play the next series because he was too small, or like what was his matchup. Peyton won't have that problem, like 2 through 4. If they're elite players, even maybe 1 through 4, like he can probably still hang. And it's just a different level of, as far as the potential, it's just a different level of elite defense.
Yeah. All right, let's take a last quick break because I do want to do this quickly on the other side with the comps for Christian Braun and Julian Strawther.
When you get hurt, Baxton Shanker is here to help. Baxton Shanker wins for Colorado families. They've been helping those seriously injured in Colorado for more than 25 years. They're free until they win your case. No upfront fees for speaking with them about your case. No fees while they work on your case. You just pay them when they get you money, when they win your case. And they've won over $1 billion for their clients. No matter where you're at in the greater Denver area, or really in Colorado, they have a neighborhood office probably somewhere close to you. Denver, Aurora, Englewood, Fort Collins. They got more than 30 lawyers and 100 people on staff. Baxton Shanker helps with all kinds of injury cases where you weren't at fault. Car accidents, motorcycle, rideshare, pedestrians, trucks. They can even help you if you're injured at work. Give them a call, 222-2222 to find out if you have a case for free. Backus and Shanker wins.
We don't settle for anything less than the best these days in Denver, especially here at DNVR, which is why we've linked up with the best roofers. Talking about Red Hawk Roofing, baby. With quality materials, decades of experience. Play the sound. Yeah.
Oh, man, I missed it.
Quick response. It sounded like the other times. Quick response time. Colorado's best estimators and contractors. Huge DNVR supporters, which is my favorite part. It's cool to have roofers. It's cool to have fellas on your roof. It's cooler when you can yell Nugget stuff at them and they respond,
Like, not while they're on like a ladder.
What do you think about Zeke Naji? And they're like, I'm more of a DeAndre guy.
Yeah. Is that how it works?
Free, no obligation roof and property inspections, free in-depth photo reports for all inspections. Winter is coming. Don't wait to take care of any issues before the big storms hit. If you're looking for a new roof over your home or business, be sure to check out Red Hawk Roofing at redhawkroofing.com.
All right, back here, final segment. Let's talk quickly now about Julian Strawther. The 2 comps I came up, and sticking with the tradition of only picking people from the Pelicans, I went with Trey Murphy and Kevin Huerter. Trey Murphy, one of my favorite players in the NBA.
He's one of your guys.
He's one of my guys. And if we roll the clock back to Trey Murphy's age 21 season, you're going to see, again, these are per 100 possessions because Trey Murphy was on a bad team, but you're looking at the numbers. Pretty comparable points-wise, 20.4 to 19.1. Rebounds, Trey Murphy, better rebounder. Assist, Julian Strawther, a little bit better assister. And then you got the true shooting percentage there. It's early. Julian Strawther, rookies usually, like, you come out the gate, he I think, will shoot better. But that 50% to 56% basically for Trey Murphy is interesting. And then everything else, like, you're talking about some pretty comparable numbers here. Offensive box plus minus, way lower. A lot of the box plus minus stuff, Yoke swallows up a lot of it. So these guys are just in different roles. They're naturally going to be a little bit lower. I like this comp, but what I really like, Trey Murphy, he's like in the top tier of my all envy role players list. I love Trey Murphy. If Julian Strawther becomes Trey Murphy, oh my God. Nuggets are in great hands.
I like the Kevin Herter comp. I don't know if I see the Trey Murphy comp as much, just
What
because
don't you see?
the defense, the length. Like Trey Murphy seems longer, and he seems like more of a natural 3, and I feel like Strawther's more of a natural 2. Kevin Herter though, like I totally see that just as like the pure catch and shoot threat.
Yeah.
The guy who's always moving around, takes like 0.1 seconds to get off his shot. Can relocate super quick
That's
off the
the one
catch
I
like
love.
that.
Yeah.
They both have interesting hairstyles.
That's all it is.
But no, I like it.
The off-ball movement thing would be really cool. The Nuggets,
Yeah.
I think for all the shooters they have, it's too easy for them to just hit and find a stationary guy in the corner, not to do that as often as they do, or Jokic or Jamal does something else. But it is fun watching some teams who they have certain players who will work so hard to get open off ball, or they have all these neat ways they can get them open off ball. And Strawther is a guy who doesn't hesitate at all. So that's kind of a fun. The Herter one's really fun. The relocating is really fun.
There's also great cuts to be had off of those, they're called strong pin downs. 2 guys pinned down for 1 player. The ball's usually on the opposite side. Either of those guys can slip. You can curl cut and that come around. There's a lot of ways to confuse defenses where Yoke's the best at, you turned your head for the wrong second,
Yeah.
bounce pass, there it is.
And he can see that stuff. Julian can read that stuff, I think. He's a smart player. And I've said this a few times, but I've been intrigued by what he looks like when he puts the ball on the floor more than I expected. But the Herter one is cool. It'd be cool for them to have a player like that.
Yeah. So I love that one. Julian Strawther, I'm also really high on, though. This is the thing, is both of those
another one
guys.
of your guys.
Kevin Herter is a starter on a good team. Trey Murphy is a starting caliber player on a good team. Both of those guys, to me, are very good role players. And if he has anything close to either of them or somewhere in between the two, then I think Denver is in an incredible spot, man, because Julian projects to be a bench player. And if you have that kind of length and shooting off the bench that can play like those guys can, I just think it's something incredible. And then on the last guy, Christian Braun here, his upside hasn't really changed. I had 3 comps for him, only used 2. Jalen Suggs I kind of like, but he's a young player. I think that Jalen Suggs it's too hard to comp because they're both young. But if you go with Josh Hart and OG Anunoby, OG Anunoby, same height, but a way different wingspan, 7'2". That's part of what makes OG Anunoby so special. Josh Hart, a little bit shorter, 6'5", but the same wingspan, 6'7". So somewhere in between height-wise, these two players. But fellas, we go all the way down here to defensive box plus minus. I can't tell which one is defensive box plus minus.
It's the last one. It's the last one.
It's not 0.9 for Christian Braun, is it? I thought Christian Braun had a positive one because he's the second highest on the team. Yeah, I don't know if these numbers are right there, Kale. Oh, no, it is 0.9. He has a 0.9 one.
Classic.
Just throwing Kale under the bus.
Kale's like, I know that they are, but I'll wait for you to get there on your own.
Well, I'm trying to figure out, does Denver really have... Oh, no, I was confusing him and Peyton Watson. Peyton Watson had the second best defensive box plus minus on the Nuggets roster. KCP right behind him, Aaron Gordon, and then Christian Braun a little bit lower.
Dude, I see a lot of Josh Hart's game in Christian Braun.
Yep.
The rebounding.
That's it.
Crashing the
That's it.
glass. The inconsistent shooting. I see a lot of that in Josh Hart and Christian Braun's game.
Could hit a huge shot, could brick so hard off the front.
But he's bigger than Josh Hart.
Yeah, 6'6", 6'5". Yeah.
And they both we were talking about Villanova guy, who all the Villanova guys are super smart, but Christian Braun, a Kansas guy, he's also very smart. So I think that comp is really, really good.
God, Tom Thibodeau would love Christian Braun.
He really,
too.
the Josh Hart one is so true. There's 2 to 3 Josh Hart rebounds a game where the play-by-play guy, whoever, just loses their minds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is just a winning player. And Christian is dripping in that stuff.
Yeah.
Dripping in
I will say, though, Christian Braun, better athlete than Josh Hart.
Yeah.
Like, when he's attacking...
And OG, honestly. He's not strong, but...
When Christian Braun's attacking the rim, I'm like... He might just jam it on this dude.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way with Josh Hart
Yeah.
or OG Anunoby.
Yeah.
Christian Braun people forget because he's white. Christian Braun is like top 1% NBA athlete, man. He's a ridiculous athlete.
Real freak athlete.
Yeah.
So I kind of like this comp. So if we just sit here and go, okay, we thought Peyton Watson has the upside to be a Herb Jones type defender. We think that Christian Braun in between a Josh Hart, OG Anunoby defender. I mean, he doesn't have the 7'2" wingspan, which is obviously a big difference. But in between those two kind of guys,
Sure.
right?
His
who are
athleticism makes up for
both
it.
starting caliber defensive aces guys. Herb Jones, starting caliber defensive ace. And then whichever way you want to go on the trade with Julian Strawther, Herder, or Trey Murphy, probably somewhere in between defensively of those two guys, offensively maybe a little bit closer to a Herder. That's three players that are starting caliber players that Denver has in their stable that we think can be there in short order. That to me is really exciting. And if you look at this and say, as second year players, all of those comps were impact caliber players by second year. I just think that Denver right now is on, like, I buy the vision that Calvin Booth has kind of sold us on. I buy the vision that those are guys that should not take a long time to be ready and whose upside is, nobody's going to be talking about them this way, but their upside is all of those types of players who everyone covet. Remember Josh Hart? Every fan base wanted Josh Hart. OG Anunoby's been on the market for 3 years. Every team has done
CB
everything they can to be on the trade market. And then Herb Jones, nobody even puts him in the trade machine because they just assume that New Orleans would never trade him. That's incredible if you somehow got those guys all in the back half of their drafts.
What's great about these three guys we're talking about too is you've got Peyton Watson, who's he might be able to give you something defensively in the playoffs this year. He probably will. But his upside is through the roof.
Yeah.
His upside could still be, Andre Iguodala-esque. Then you've got Julian Strawther, who maybe his upside is like a step down from that, but he's ready-made. Like, he's so solid coming into the league as like a 21-year-old rookie, already battle-tested. You know what you're getting. And then you've got Christian Braun, who might not even have the upside of those two.
But is the most ready out of the package.
Was the most ready to go out of the package. You've got these three levels of prospects. And that, I think, adds to the genius of what Calvin Booth did. He got the three perfect role players, but he also got three guys who have varying levels of NBA readiness, but upside as well. It's just the perfect mix of three guys.
What's most different about the bench this year to me is I was always buckled up for a turbulent run of the unit. And just the non-Jokic minutes, I think, are always going to be a bumpy ride. But as you break down piece by piece, like the individual players that fill out the roster, it's easily the most intriguing it's been, right? The 5, 6, 7, 8 guys, like,
yeah, that's a great
they're
point.
way more intriguing.
We talked ourselves into Trey Lyles for a while there.
Right. Like, those groups weren't going anywhere, They weren't good and they weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And this group, even when they're not good, you can talk yourself into where they're headed. And that's fun. It's a fun place to be in.
Yeah. All right, that does it for today's show. Oh, we do have Laking Ball had to give us a sad super
The best
chat.
part of my night last night,
man.
I checked my replies on Twitter, and Laking Ball, you were right, B-Vote. The Celtics have
man.
late game execution errors. They'll never go anywhere. Here he goes, paying money to let us know. So everyone knows how big of a Celtics fan I am. And I seriously think we saw a preview in how the Celtics will flame out once again in the playoffs.
All it took was one in-season tournament game for you to be off the Celtics.
First of all,
it was a loud game.
First of all, he's right. He's right. That's what we've been trying to tell you. And
You know what that Celtics team is? A Joe Mazzulla team, man.
that's it.
You know it? It's
That's
a Joe Mazzulla team. I would just say he came in there as the new analytics forward guys. They sure jack a lot of threes and
They
don't
definitely
execute
get
on
threes
inbound
up.
passes.
They definitely don't know what they're doing in the final 4 minutes of a game.
They gave up 5 points on inbound passes in the clutch last
dude,
night. One was at the rim, and you're like, "What are you doing, you guys?" Would never have happened
and
over
then
Udoka.
Tatum took a fadeaway over a double and airballed it from the right baseline. Like, that's what you want.
Hey,
when
Drew
you're up.
Hanlon loved that shot, though. That was a good shot.
That's a good shot, man.
He's
He
worked
actually
on
worked
that.
on it for a lot. Oh, we're trolling. It's fun to troll. All right, yeah. Outro music, guys. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Guess what tomorrow is?
Nuggets are back.
Game day. Tomorrow is a game day.
Let's go.
Remember when we made it through a whole off season? We just
That
had
was
2 off day shows, and it was like, ugh.
I know. I missed the Nuggets.
It's not just a game day, man. It's a Clippers game
That's
day.
exactly- that's what
we
it
get to
is.
play the
Yeah.
Clippers again. Thank you, Adam Silver.
What a treat.
You cooked with this schedule, man. Thank you. I cannot wait for tomorrow night.
God, I love the Clippers.
All right.
It's
Should
a
be
treat.
fun. Should be a fun one. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Hit that like button on the way out.
like the mayor.